Okay, we're going on now to topic 1.2, operations and real numbers. And we have some vocabulary words to start us off. And let's check them out here. Absolute value, opposite, reciprocal, undefined. For number one, I believe the absolute value, let's get a pen going here. So absolute value goes there. And the what of 5 is 1/5. That's the reciprocal. Because a number multiplied by its reciprocal, you recall, is a positive 1. And for this next one, it would be the opposite. That is, when you add a number and its opposite, that equals 0. And we say the division of any number other than 0 divided by 0 is undefined. Going on to the next few, we said the absolute value of anything was its positive value. And we want to know here whether each statement is true or not. Is a negative 7 less than or equal to a negative 11? Well, remember, on a number line, negative 7 is there, negative 11 is there, so negative 7 is actually greater. So this is false. Is negative 3 greater than negative 10? Well, negative 10 is over here, and negative 3 is over there somewhere, so that would be true. Now, for these next few, we're going to do some addition of signed numbers. So the rule, you recall, was take the absolute values, subtract the smaller absolute value from the larger. That's going to give you a 9. Then apply the sign of the larger absolute value, and in this case, it will be negative. Now here, since they're both the same sign, we know the answer is going to be negative, and we just add them up. So that will be 6.9. Now here we have fractions. And in our lesson, you recall, we had to get a common denominator to add these fractions. And our common denominator is 15. And we had to multiply this by 5 to make it 15. So 2 times 5 makes that a 10. and it's going to be a minus there. We had to multiply this by 3, so this is going to be a 9. And now that we have a common denominator, we can just deal with our numerator, which gives us 1 over 15. Now, as we look at number 14, we see these are opposites, or one is the additive inverse of the other. When we do that, our results are 0. And here they want us to find the opposite or the additive inverse. So generally it's just the opposite sign. So 15 will be 4.67. 16 will be a negative 5/3. Again, if you add these two together, the results would equal 0. Now here they're asking us to find the opposite of x. So what would be the opposite of this? Well, it would be a positive 15. And if it's positive, we don't usually write the sign. What would be the opposite of this? Again, it's just change the signs. All right, now we're jumping into subtract. Well, remember we said we could write it this way. 3 plus a negative 12. So we've changed our subtraction to an addition of unlike sign numbers. So again, we're going to subtract the 3 from the 12, get a 9, and apply the larger absolute value sign. In this case, it would be a negative. If you put this in your calculator, you're going to get a negative 9. Now here's a little tricky because they're saying the opposite of a negative 9 makes this a positive 9. So 9 minus 2 is going to be 7. Now here again, two negatives. The opposite of a negative makes this a positive. So this is going to be a 2. And how about a 4.2? Now here we're adding a 0, and this is the opposite of this. So when we add a 0 to any number, it doesn't change its value. This is going to be 6/5, because the opposite of this is that. Adding it to 0 keeps it the same. Now for these, we're going to do some multiplication, and we're carefully watching the signs. Here the signs are the same, so like signs will give us a positive 24. Here one is negative, so we know our answer will be negative. And multiplying by 10, we just have to move the decimal over one place. And here, multiplying anything by a 1 doesn't change its value, but we have to watch the signs. So this becomes a positive 1.8. Now here, notice what we have. We have a negative 3/4 and a positive 4/3. Now if this was not a negative here, that would equal a 1, because these numbers would be reciprocals of each other. But because of the negative sign, here we're going to get a negative 1. So that's where you have to be careful. in order for it to be a true reciprocal, this second item here would have to have a negative. They have to be the same sign so that you would end up with a positive 1. Okay, here they're asking for the reciprocal or the multiplicative inverse if it exists. So remember, this is over 1. So the reciprocal would be the same sign, but 1 over 12, in which we flip them. So now if we multiply, that would equal a 1. Again, we would need the same sign, but flip the items, and that would equal 1. So this is the reciprocal, this is the reciprocal. So as we continue with division here, the same rules apply. Watch the signs. So we know our answer is going to be a negative, and this goes in there 3 times, so negative 3. And again, the same rules apply. Like signs, this is going to give us a positive 2. Now, when we're dividing fractions, the rule you recall, that I'll go over it again, is you write the first term, you take the multiplication, the division sign, change it to multiplication, and then take the reciprocal of this. So it'd be the same sign, but flipped over. Now you want to cancel out wherever you can. That goes into there once. This goes into there twice. So we end up with a negative 3/2. So the rule for division of fractions is we change it to multiplication. The first item stays the same. The second item, the same sign, but the reciprocal. Cancel out wherever we can, and then multiply through. This one's a little tricky, but not too bad. 5 over 12 times, now remember this is 10 over 1, so this becomes a negative 1 over 10. So negative times negative, the answer is going to be positive. Again, we don't write it, but I put it there so we don't have to worry about the sign anymore. 5 goes into there once, 5 goes into there twice, so it looks like a positive 1 over 24. Now, I had a student that took a test recently online, and when they did this problem, they didn't write the 1 in the denominator. They just had the answer as 24. Again, if it's in the denominator, it has to stay in the denominator, and you have to put that 1 in the numerator. Because if you just write 24, how do we know it was 1/24? We wouldn't know that. So, of course, that was counted wrong. Now, in this next one, here we're using the order of operations up here. And we want to do, what do we do first? Well, from left to right, we're going to do this multiplication. So 3 times 6 is 18. Minus 5 squared is 25. And this will be 20 minus 2 to the 3rd power is 8. So now we can do our subtraction. On the top, we're going to end up with a negative 7 On the bottom, we're going to end up with a positive 12. So that is our answer, a negative. And usually we put the negative sign by the division bar. And this one is a little more challenging, so let's do it step by step. So we have a 3 there. Let's see if I can get my pen moving. Okay, 3. Now this is going to be a negative 2, but it's the absolute value, so it comes out as a positive 2. Minus. Now this is going to be, let's just do that. 2 to the third power is 8. Minus 3 to the second power, which is 9. And that raised to the fifth power. Okay. And that's all over. 4 times 6 is 24. Minus 3 squared is 9. Okay, so simplifying that, this is going to become 3 times 2 is 6. Minus, now inside here, this becomes a negative 1 to the fifth power. Now because it's an odd number of times we're going to multiply something, this ends up as being a negative 1. Negative 1 to the fifth is negative 1. So the opposite of a negative 1 is a positive 1. So this becomes a plus 1 here. And then this becomes a 15. So after we did all of that, we end up with 7 15ths. And that is correct. Okay. All right, working these last two. So this is a negative 13 that comes out of the absolute as a positive 13. Minus 8 divided by a negative 2 times 3. Now, as you do this, you might say, well, what do? I did the absolute sign. That's okay. But I have to do this division first. So this is going to be 13. Now I have a negative 8 divided by a negative 2. That's going to give me a positive 4. That's times 3 now. Again, I have to do the multiplication first now. This gives me a 12. 12 and 13 add up to, I'll put it over here for you, 25. Okay, now for our last one. Here we have a negative 8 plus 3. We do that first. This will give us a negative 5 that we're going to square. Then divide that by a negative 5 times 6 minus 3. And since I do exponents first, I'm going to actually do this here to kind of help us out. A negative 10 squared is 100. And this over here, by the way, let's just do that. this is going to end up being a positive 25. Okay, now we've taken care of all our exponents and what's in the parentheses. We're going to do our division. So 25 divided by a negative 5 gives us a negative 5. I'll put that up here. Times 6 minus, that's going to be, since there's a minus, I can put that there as 300 there. Okay. So I do this multiplication. This is going to be a negative 30 and a negative 300. Gives me a negative 330. And that is correct. And that finishes this. Let's see if I can just click right here.